Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Well Red Beard. It's a damn fine day to talk about a book, and today we're here for a book review, a horror review, and we're going to talk about Seed. Uh, so look, before I get into this, I have called this author Ania Ahlborn throughout the course of my reading journey with her. This is my fifth book. I do not know if that is correct, the correct pronunciation of her name. To be honest with you, I've looked at it over and over again, and I never thought that it could be Anya. It never crossed my mind that her name might be Ania Ahlborn, which makes a hell of a lot more sense, honestly. So I should go see if I can find like an interview of someone else pronouncing her name, so that I know going forward the correct pronunciation. But I'm not saying I'm too lazy to go find that interview, but I'm too lazy to go find that interview. So if you know the correct pronunciation of this author's name, please tell me down below in the comments. For now, I'm going to attempt to call her Anya, even though my mind has completely formed and locked around the habit of calling her Ania. So, Ania Ahlborn, Seed. This is my fifth read by Anya. I have read Within These Walls, The Devil Crept In, Brother, and a short novella called Palmetto. I have read, so this is my fifth read, and I've read all of those books in the last 4 months. I had not read anything by Anya. That's going to be the problem. Is I'm going to unconsciously go back and forth between Anya and Ania. But anyway, I had not read any books of hers until like 4 months ago, and I'm a fan, like a big fan. As far as modern horror authors on the shelf at your Barnes and Noble, I think a lot of these books are on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. At least they are when they come out. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know that I currently have a more favorite author. I mean, like I'm really trying to lock that stuff in as far as my go-to people, like the ones that going forward there is no question as to whether I will pick up their next book. I've got Keith Rawson, I've got Catriona Ward. Of course, Stephen King still fits in that category, but I think that is about the limit of the authors that I treat that way. And Anya Ahlborn is now one of them. So I got four. Anyway, that's just the truth. So this book is awesome. I mean, it is a modern original type possession story. You know, um, 6-year-old little girl gets taken over by something. And, so whether you're into the creepy kids or you're into like the biblical demonic horror or the possession stuff or it's here, but it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more um, in depth. It's a little bit more. It, I used a term in my little short review on this. You've heard of the term generational wealth. This is generational evil. I mean, generational evil passed down generation to generation. So let's read a little synopsis and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I really like this book. I 4-star like this book. And to be honest with you, like there were parts like I was like, this is it. This is my 5-star Anya Ahlborn read. Within These Walls has been my favorite so far. Didn't give it 5, gave it 4, but it's probably more like 4.5. I still think that this might be second place for me after going through the entire thing. I still think Within These Walls is my favorite, but I really like this book. So, with nothing but the clothes on his back and something horrific snapping at his heels, Jack Winter fled his rural Georgia home when he was just a boy, watching the world he knew vanish in a trucker's rear view mirror. He thought he was leaving an unspeakable nightmare behind forever. Now, years later, the bright new future he's built suddenly turns pitch black as something fiendishly familiar looms dead ahead. Surviving a violent car crash seems like a miracle for Jack's family, but Jack knows there's nothing divine about it. The profound evil he uncovered as a boy has finally found him again. The thing that crouched at his bedside with soulless eyes and grinning razor sharp teeth is back with plans for Jack and his angelic youngest daughter. And a chilling promise. I've always been here and I'll never leave. So yeah, our main character Jack, well, he had some issues as a child. Used to hang out in the cemetery back behind his house. Saw something in the woods. Saw something off to the side. Something with teeth and eyes and some sort of a creature. And after seeing them, it started to manifest into anger and deeds. Things that that he did that were not like young Jack at all, right? Completely out of the norm for him. And all we know is that he ran away from home at like 14 years old. That's all we know. Now we get a lot more about that, and I'm gonna leave it there because that's another thing about these books is it's for me. I feel like it's really easy to give shit away, and I don't want to give shit away. So all we know is he left home and moved from Georgia, settled in Louisiana. Now he's married with two daughters. He's like a fledgling rock star. Plays gigs in like on Bourbon Street in Nolans. Doesn't live there, but travels to do things like that. And so he's like a fledgling rock star, but he's kind of repeating his past. I mean, he grew up in a shitty trailer. His family kind of lives in a shitty trailer now. No offense to trailers, I've been there. But and one night they're on their way home from something, that horrible car wreck, and he sees something. He sees these eyes, this thing from his childhood, like kind of run across the road, and because of that he overcorrects, wrecks the car. They land on the top, and from that moment on, his 6-year-old daughter is infected, affected. So, and again, it starts to escalate, starts to get darker and darker, and manifest in deeper, ugly, darker ways. So, and that's where we're at now. I'm kind of going to leave it there. So you got the possession elements, you got the creepy kid elements, and then, but to me, this whole idea of this generational, I don't know that that's been done before. Maybe it has, because as Jack delves into his past, he starts to find that maybe it didn't start with him. Maybe, he didn't really, it's not something that, it's not his fault for hanging out in a creepy rundown cemetery out behind his house. It's something that was coming for him all along because it came from his mother, and maybe her mother before her. And so that's where we get to that generational evil. One thing I'll say about Ahlborn is I think, because I spent 3 years of my life reading pretty much nothing but like indie small press horror. And as I was doing that, I was like, the great thing about these books is they don't follow the set of rules that I felt at the time, at least, that you had to follow to be a majorly published horror book. Meaning, you open, I mean, you used to be, sorry, you would open a horror book, from the Barnes and Noble shelf or wherever, and you knew that there was going to be some danger. You knew there was going to be some tight situations. You knew, but you had a pretty good idea that your main character was going to come out the other end changed, but it's going to come out the other end, and again, it's hard to go into these things. I often say that Ahlborn writes, risky endings, writes edgy, and I don't want to say that she writes unhappy endings, but the fact of the matter is that might be a spoiler, but there's no other way to describe Ahlborn's style than to say that, yeah, there's a level of unhappy to every single book of hers that I've read, as far as the way it ends, which to me is super cool. And like I said, edgy, original, out of the box, maybe, rule breaking, whatever you want to call it. So there's levels to that. So don't just, get it in your head that so and so isn't gonna make it. But yeah, so that is what I like about Ahlborn stuff. So maybe don't pick this one up immediately, because I don't want you to take what I've told you about this book and try to apply a imagined edgy ending, right? Maybe pick up another one. Pick up Within These Walls and start there, because if you've only seen this video, you know nothing about that book, and you'll just know that Ania Ahlborn is um is not a happy ending type person. So anyway, really dug it. I've got another one called The Bird Eater that I'll be reading in the next month, and then I'm all out, and I've got to go out and pick up more. I think that she has roughly 10 or so books out there. So I've got a couple more to pick up and find, and because my plans are to do what I've done with Keith Rawson and Catriona Ward, which is, in Rawson's case, read everything that he's published. In Ward's case, read everything but one, and I've got that, and that'll be coming. But that is my goal with Ahlborn too now. She is definitely in my top 5 current horror authors. Yeah, really enjoyed this book. This is Seed by Ania Ahlborn. This has been Well Read Beard. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.